Good morning and welcome to Bible class. It's good to be together, isn't it? Make sure I can jump into our study time together. Heavenly Father, we thank you. Thank you for this chance to share together. Thank you for the chance to special day, this day that we take as a Easter Sunday to celebrate your resurrection. Thank you so much. Today we give you thanks for the hope, for that promise, that joy. Old unwritten policy in the Marine Corps that says to err is human, to forgive is divine. Neither is Marine Corps policy. I laugh at that, but more than even, generally. When we talk about this idea of forgiveness, though, and that we're going to be dealing more than even, generally. When we talk about this idea of forgiveness, though, and that we're going to be dealing with this a lot because in Joseph's life, that was a huge thing. And no offense to the Marine Corps, but it's not a good policy. To live when you're hated and dealing with these anger and these emotions and things. There's been some interesting studies that have done that look at the brain patterns and how we respond when we forgive. And the neurological paths and the things that happen in the brain in people that forgive as opposed to people who don't forgive. It really is. You can literally and medically speak to not forgive. And we're going to see some of the reasons why he might not forgive. And then later on in his life, we'll get back to it again when we see him again, how he seems to have forgiven the situation of his life, because forgiveness is such a difficult thing for all of us. To just be honest, people tick us off. People do things that annoy us. I annoy myself, let alone what you do for me. And so learning how to process that and how to be a Christian and how to be, and so we're going to together in Genesis chapter 37. I want us to pick up a few things here in the story of Joseph, because there's some things in his situation that he didn't have any control over. He really didn't. And there's some other things that he may have had a little bit more influence that he could have done better, which typically is what happens with forgiveness, isn't it? I have to deal with forgiving other people partially because of my own situation, but often because of things that I don't do and could not speak a kind word to him. Okay, let's deal with some of this first off. Jacob has some sons. How many sons does Jacob have? This is where you can talk. Again, think back into their culture. It's a little bit different than what we have today. It's very complicated. He's born to Rachel, who is the wife that Jacob wanted. And he was finally the 11th born son. Okay, big family, lots of things going on here. Joseph sent out to take care of the sheep to be with him in this text we just read. And what happens? What happens? Well, he sees his brothers doing something that says, they're not some strife with his brothers, but big complicated family, that adds to it. As we read in the text, his dad presents him with a special gift. What does he give him? A coat. Now, the coat that we're dealing with, and what's interesting here, is this coat. Then you get Joseph tattletelling on his brothers, and what happens to their relationship? It's not good. It's a bad deal. Then Joseph starts having some dreams. Let's go ahead and read on. Someone want to read? I'll let someone else read. If you want to read verses 5 through 11, please. Real loud though. Genesis 37, 5 through 11.
He said to them, "Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheep rose and stabbed through it. His brothers said to him, 'Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?' And they hated him
Throw the easy ones out once in a while. What's this mean? Okay. He's going to be an authority over his brothers. Again, you're the older brothers. Now, Joseph may not be so nice and polite because he's sharing that dream with them, but he feels, for some reason, he does feel compelled to share that dream with them. He may not have said it in the nicest way or the right tone, but that doesn't change the fact that he did have this dream. And there's part of me as I read this text, I'm going, Joseph, you're an idiot. You're just looking to get beat up, aren't you? I mean, there's certain things you can say to your older brothers, and there's certain things you don't. Walking up to your brother and saying you're ugly, that's not a smart thing to do. You'll get punched for it. I don't care what family you grow up in. That's just walking up. It would have been that simple. And so Joseph, he has it, and it's not just he has one dream, but he has two dreams. After the reaction of the first one, I would have thought Joseph, you see the sun, the moon, and 11 stars. Who is this, obviously? It's not just the brothers. It's even mom and dad. That's a bit audacious, isn't it? Joseph, do you really? You think your dad's attitude? We don't know the tone that he says all this. Was he saying that this is cocky, or he goes, guys, I had this weird dream, and I don't want to tell you, but I'm going to tell you anyway. What does his dad do? Son, you're out of your mind. You think your mom and I are going to bow before you? But it's interesting, the last verse there, his brothers were jealous of him, but his father kept the matter in his mind. Again, where does this dream? It comes from God. And Joseph has this vision, and he's trusting God, and he seems to be listening to God, and he's paying attention. Relationship with God seems to be driving him, and meanwhile, this hatred between his brothers is brewing. Okay. Finally, we get to the next section, verses 12. Let me just read this. It says, now his brother, they're grazing their flocks. They've moved on from here, the man said. I heard them say, let's go to Dothan. So Joseph went after his brothers and found them near Dothan. But when they saw him at a distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. Here, Reuben said this to rescue him from them and take them back to his father. So when Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped him of his robe, the ornate robe he was wearing, and they took him and threw him into the cistern. The cistern was empty, and there was no water in it. As they sat down to eat their meal, they looked up, and when they got Joseph's robe, slaughtered a goat and dipped it in the blood. They took the ornate robe back to their father and said, "We found this. Examine it to be a pretty cool customer with all this." Now, the other one that's in there that you got to make note of is the one that ends up selling him, which not quite as good, but at least he didn't kill him. And that's Judah. And you start thinking through this whole story. What would it have been like to be Joseph? How would he, for him to